Hey everyone, Angela here. Life can be challenging. Trust me, I get it. However, I have learned we can either view the opposition or value the opportunity. Ponder on the problem or praise the potential. Focus on the situation or find the solution. Despite the current circumstances you're going through, I invite you to join me today as we embark on a grand adventure to discover the reasons why it's a good time to be you.
Here's the encourager herself, making every day a good day, Angela Henderson.
Hey, welcome everybody. We are so excited to have you on today's episode of It's a Good Time to Be You, and we are so glad that you are here. Today we are going to meet a young author. Imagination, Albert Einstein said, is more important than knowledge. Now go figure that one out. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Imagination is intelligence having fun. And we all have imaginations. I remember Barney back in the day when I was a little girl and when I was even raising my kids, and we learned about Barney, and he would always teach us about our imagination stations, okay? We all have an imagination station. And I want to encourage you from this day forward to use your imagination station. God gave it to us. It is an amazing place to be and an amazing place to hang out. It took imagination for us to be where we are this day, even in technology, in design, imagination for us to even drive our cars, right? We've got cars that we thoroughly enjoy these days, but it took imagination in order to be able to do that, in order to be able to create that. It also takes imagination in order to be able to live the dreams that are inside of you. How many of you have dreams? I've got dreams. Yeah. And it takes imagination. We have to see them in our mind's eye before we can actually embrace them and hold them in our hands and in our hearts. And I'll never forget having to go. I used to be a runner. Well, I still am, but I'm not the marathon runner that I used to be. But I love to run now just for fun. But I remember setting up goals in my mind's eye that I needed to reach. I could not see them with my natural eye yet, but I knew I was going to get there. And so I would have to see the goal as I was running in my mind's eye. And seeing that goal in my mind's eye gave me the energy, it gave me the strength, it gave me the motivation to keep going until I saw it with my natural eye. And so I want to encourage you to see what it is that you desire in your heart with your mind's eye. Imagine it. What would life be like if I lived this dream? What would my family have if I could live this dream? And so get that picture in your mind and hold on to that and don't let that go. And then pursue it with all of your heart, because life was meant to live our dreams, all right? You have those dreams for a reason. And they're not only going to make your life amazing, they're going to make everybody else's life around you amazing as well. Just think, don't you enjoy your cell phones these days? Thanks, Alexander Graham Bell, for what you did imagining, 100 plus years ago. Thank you so much for doing that, because of where we are today. Now we're all enjoying just his imagination. And people around you are going to enjoy yours too. So we have a great guest with us again, a young lady. Her name is River Zedekiah, the author of the trilogy Shabbat. And she is going to share her imagination with us today and take us into an amazing world that she created and designed on her own. She is working, she's got her first book written, the second one is written, and she's now working on her third. So we'll introduce River to you as soon as we get back from this. Hey everyone, Angela here. Have you ever wondered where I got this phrase, it's a good time to be you? Well, I am excited to share with you. It's going to be in my upcoming book entitled, well, It's a Good Time to Be You. So I look forward to sharing it with you. Be checking it out on Amazon.com coming real soon. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much. Now we're going to introduce to you a young author, River Zedekiah. She has written a book called The Shabbat, which is actually a trilogy. Book 1 and Book 2 have been written. Book 3 is on her computer, from what I have been told. And so we're going to just welcome her on the stage and let her take us into her world of imagination. Let's give River a hand clap. So Welcome, River. Welcome. Come on. It's good to see you. Good to have you. Come on. Good deal. Good deal.
Thank you.
Well, we are so honored to have you with us today, Miss River.
I'm honored to be here.
Well, that is great. And so you've written this book called The Shebet. And we are very excited to kind of hear a little bit more about this because the name is interesting. But before we go there, I'd like to kind of just start off with maybe a little bit of background as to how you got started writing. How did that interest, come to you, and how did you realize that you were gifted in that area?
I didn't know that I ever necessarily realized I was gifted in that area.
You're still working on that one?
Yeah.
I've read her book. She's gifted.
Thank you. The first story I ever wrote, I was maybe 5 or 6. My grandfather helped me write it. It was some story about a frog. I don't even remember how it went, but that was like the first story I ever wrote, and I realized I just liked writing little short stories here and there like that. I had a few ideas come and go through my head, and little stories I would write throughout like elementary school, and I stopped writing for a long time actually throughout middle school, and didn't pick it back up again until I was in high school. And that's actually when I started writing The Shebet.
What made you pick it up in high school then? If you had stopped all that period of time and maybe didn't have an interest in it, what made you pick it back up in high school?
A friend of mine kind of challenged me. I had always had this issue where I would never really finish any story that I started.
So anybody had an issue where you didn't finish something you started?
Yeah, so she told me one day, she's just like, yeah, I just really feel like you need to go back. You need to, any story at all that you may have started that you never completed, just go back and finish it. That's it. And as soon as she said that, I knew immediately what story to go back to. And it was something that I had written for an English assignment that I never finished. I balled it up, tossed it away, and did something else. But I went back to that idea, that piece of paper, and I remembered everything, where I was going, who my character was, what his journey was, what his purpose was, and I just started from there.
That's pretty cool. So the name of the book series is called The Shebet, and that's a very interesting name. How did you come up with that? What does it mean even?
The Shebet it's not a word that I made up. It's not something I just constructed myself. It's an old Hebrew word. It means the rod and the staff. I heard it in a church sermon one day, and something just told me to write it down. And I did, and I had no idea why. But as I was continuing to write my story and to develop my character and his purpose and his struggles, The Shebet just kind of became like the most conducive title for his development and for who he is to become.
Wow. So can you give us just a little bit of insight as to what this is about? You know, we're talking about the Shebet, which means a rod and a staff. So what is this book about, the plot?
Essentially, it's about a young man who his father passes away, and through his father's passing, he discovers there's basically this whole hidden identity to his father and even to himself, something he just didn't know was there. Basically, he finds out he's not where he thinks he's from, and he's not who he thinks he is. He's someone who has been set up to carry this huge responsibility that he doesn't want. So he decides that he's going to pass this responsibility off to somebody else. And through that, he has to step into this other world with the help of a group of people that have been assigned to protect him. And through that, he finds out, well, even though he's, searching for someone to take on that responsibility with, wisdom and strength that he feels he doesn't have, there's also another power, another force out there that is very dark and very malevolent that wants what he has, that wants this responsibility as well.
So that they see the value in what he has, where
Yeah.
he doesn't see it yet.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it.
Kind of reminds me of spiritual things, does it not, my friends? I mean, let's think about it. You know, there's an enemy out there that wants to rob us. He sees the value in who we are and wants to rob us of that. And we don't even recognize our value. We don't even see it. We don't even acknowledge it. A lot of times we're struggling with that. Like, who am I? Why was I here? And you know, I don't have a purpose, but we do. And we have a great responsibility in who we are designed to be. And there is an enemy out there that knows that and that recognizes your value and your worth, but he doesn't want you to know that. And so he'll do anything he can to rob you of that. So what genre would you say that your book is in?
It's fantasy, for
It's
sure.
yeah.
It is, for sure. There's a lot of mythical elements to it, a lot of mystical things that definitely we don't see in everyday life.
So maybe some of the writers that you admire are who that maybe played a role in your...
I've always really admired
Taste.
C.S. Lewis. You know, Narnia was something that was dear to my heart when I was a child. I always wanted Aslan to be real. You know, that massive lion, and until I realized, well, he's you know, based off of someone who is very real. So
Yes.
so I loved C.S. Lewis, and you know, I did always admire J.K. Rowling, who wrote the Harry Potter series.
Yes.
I thought that you have to have some kind of insane imagination to come up with the stuff that goes on in those books. So,
Yeah.
so, yeah, I thought she was pretty cool.
Absolutely, you know, and in today's world, we have to, especially as believers, not be afraid of darkness. No. You know, if we are light, we have to be willing to step into the darkness in order to be light, and that is what our whole lives are about. And if the enemy can keep us in the dark of who we are, then he can keep our light under that bushel, okay, and keep us from igniting the world everywhere we go. Exactly. And so it's so important that, you know, we not be afraid of the things of this world. Yes, we as believers want to be in it and not of it, okay? So we're in it. So while we're in it, we might as well shine, and we might as well shine very bright in there. Exactly. And so I guess it's safe to say then, maybe with your book, some people aren't going to get it, okay? Those that maybe be of a religious mindset that might want to just keep their light under a bushel, but those who walk in a deeper relationship, understand where you're coming from, and can see the spiritual significance of what's being written, maybe just in a very creative way.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope that people can kind of take what they receive from it. You know, everybody might not receive the same message from it, but you know, it's I feel like it's kind of up for interpretation. You know, everybody in their own way kind of is my main protagonist. Not my main protagonist, but you know what I mean. They kind of exemplify this main character who has just such an amazing gift from God, and you know, there are dark forces that want to take that gift from you, and you know, it's just kind of
That's cool.
up to you.
That is really cool. Well, we're getting ready to take a break, and when we come back, River is going to kind of share with us her personal experiences and what happened to her as she was using her imagination and stepping into this other world, and it's quite intriguing and what God allowed her to witness. So we'll be right back. Welcome back. We are here with author River Zedekiah. She is sharing with us her amazing journey into the world of imagination and in the spirit realm, and sharing her book with us called the Chebet Trilogy. Now, this is book one, and it can be found on Amazon. Is that correct, River?
Yes.
Okay, so, and the second book is in the process of being published now. And then the third one, as we have heard, it's in your computer, right?
Yeah, well, some of it's in my computer, most of it's still
In
here.
your head. Okay. Well, we're looking forward to it coming out because I know it's going to be amazing. But you're looking forward to it as well, huh? Okay. Well, I can imagine after working on 3 books like this, it's bound to be exhausting and tiring. And so we're going to get into that in a moment. But I want to ask you a question about the picture on the book. How did you come to choose this picture, and where'd you find it?
That is actually an ancestral photo. I was digging through some pictures one day in this box in our basement, and I found like all these antique photos that had just been passed down, and that one always stuck out to me, and I didn't really know why. I'm assuming they're like great grandfathers, but just that one always stuck out to me, so I saved it. And I didn't understand why. It didn't really make sense to me. I just liked the photo. But then as I was continuing to write the book, and piece things together for myself, the title, the cover was the next step for me. And I just felt drawn to go back to that antique photo. And I just had this settling feeling that I knew it was the cover.
And so you even went back into your book and then also wrote a storyline leading up to this actual photo being taken. Is that correct?
There's a little tidbit in it where he's looking, my main character's looking through photos, and he just has this memory when he sees that particular photo. It's just he's recalling the time that he took that photo with his father before his father died. So that photo is supposed to represent my main character and his dad. But yeah, it's just a small tidbit. It's not like it's a huge point.
So River, share with us maybe some of the challenges that maybe you just faced personally where maybe even the completion of this book might not have happened.
Yeah, it was a struggle. It really was. I was 16 when I started writing it. I was 19 by the time it was completed. There were many times where I just wanted to call it quits. It's frustrating writing a book. It's frustrating creating your own world, and just this character who I feel like is very. I feel like he's kind of a duplicate in a way of myself, and so I put a lot of myself into him. And it takes a lot of energy to do that. It's very consuming. And there were a lot of times where I would just didn't want to finish the book. I was like, I'm done. But I knew I couldn't do that. I felt like, in a weird way, I felt like my characters were real people. And so if I didn't finish it, it's like I'd be letting them down.
Yeah.
But I knew that this book was also just a gift from God. And I felt like if I didn't complete it the way that I knew he wanted me to, then I wouldn't have grown spiritually or mentally or emotionally the way that I did through the process of completing this book.
It's almost like for those 3 years you lived in this world within the pages of this book more than you did in this world.
I did.
That you live and breathe in.
Yes.
So I'm sure it was very complex.
It was.
But the number 3 is beautiful because it represents divine unity. And so it was definitely an ordained time for you. You were the one chosen to bring this out and to also live it. And so, which brings me to the next thing I'd like for us to talk about is that a lot of this just wasn't imagination. There were some things that are in this book that you actually experienced. For instance, the antagonist in this book, the villain of the story, actually visited you. Is that correct?
Yes. It happened like a dream, honestly. I had this dream one night where I was in a place that I didn't recognize. I was in a land that I'd never been to before. I was standing on a cliff top and surrounded by trees, and it was so dark, and there was this figure standing in front of me. And he was green and scaled. He looked reptilian. His eyes were just yellow and slit, and he had like this ridges on his head and these huge wings on his back, and he was furious. If there's one thing I knew, I've never felt such animosity coming from another living thing. He was so angry, and he had his hands just clenched, and he was shaking. Like, he was that livid, he was shaking. And he insulted me in the dream. He referred to me as a word I won't say here, but he just said something that triggered me. Like, I immediately woke up out of my dream as soon as he said it. And when I woke up, after I calmed myself down, I clearly felt the Lord just say to me, that's your antagonist. That's what you feel like has been stressing you out. That's what's been causing you pain and anxiety and making you want to give up and quit. That's what's been giving you nightmares. That's what's been like stalking you, because weird things happened.
Like what?
There was a time.
You got my interest. What's going on?
There was a time I was completely alone in the house. My door was cracked open. I was writing, and out of nowhere, the door slammed shut on its own.
Wow.
No one was home. There have been times where, like, I would leave my room a certain way, like the bed sheets tossed over, or something, and I would come back, and my bed sheets would be flipped in another direction, and my picture would be tilted on the wall. And I would hear footsteps all the time when I was alone. I would hear voices, muffled voices. I had no idea what they were saying, but just voices. Sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night to just voices. Just things that I couldn't explain. Just weird stuff and dark stuff would just harass me.
So it's a lot of warfare, what you were going through, a lot of spiritual warfare.
It was.
In trying to write what is considered a fiction in its storyline, but it's biblical sound truth. And it reaches, a people group that otherwise might not would pick up the Bible.
Right.
Because they see Holy Bible on there. And, the Word tells us that the Bible is foolish to those who are perishing. So they don't understand it. They don't get it. But to pick up this book where it sounds like, oh, fiction, fantasy, oh, this looks pretty good. And then encounter God in it. How awesome is that?
That's incredible. That's what I'm striving for.
That's beautiful. Well, just as real as the antagonist made himself out to you, but there was also another group of people that made themselves real to you as well. So we're going to take a break here, and when we come back, River's going to share with us another encounter that she had that didn't leave her quite so anxious. So thank you so much, River, for being with us, and we'll be right back here in just a few moments. Okay, we're here with our Masked Marvel segment, and we have found a Masked Marvel here in downtown Charleston at the Prelude Parking Garage. And this is our friend, Miss Dorothy. Miss Dorothy, tell everybody out there hi. And it is a good time to be you, and it's a good time to be Miss Dorothy. Miss Dorothy, I want to ask you a question. Can you tell me your birthday? You don't have to tell me your year, just tell me your month and your day. 3/28. 3/28. All right. This is awesome, Miss Dorothy, because that number, that March month, it means a time of war, and the number 28 actually means power, and it means victory. And so you are definitely a powerful woman. You're probably a lioness, especially when it comes to anybody messing with your cubs, huh? Go after people. You're strong-willed and strong-spirited. And so it's just a pleasure to meet you today. And so thank you so much for allowing us to have this time to build you up and to encourage you and just kind of give you a little bit of an idea of what God was thinking when he thought of you.
Amen.
Isn't that pretty awesome?
Amen.
Your birthday has significance, the day you came into this world. Would you like to tell anybody anything out there that's encouraging and it's a good time to be you land?
Keep your eyes on God, stay encouraged, and stay prayerful.
All right. You heard it from Miss Dorothy, guys. Remember, let's say it together. It's a good time to be you. Thank you, and welcome back. We hope you enjoyed our segment of Masked Marvels. We had the opportunity to go around downtown Charleston and find some amazing people. And another amazing person that's with us today is Miss River Zedekiah. So we want to come back. You had shared with us about how the antagonist had visited you in just a dream that you had. But you also had another visitation from a group of people. So kind of share with us that story and what happened.
Yeah. So for a majority of writing this book, it was mostly negative spiritual encounters, I guess. Just not very, it wasn't a very pleasant atmosphere, I suppose, writing the first one. But I know I mentioned earlier that, my character was kind of given these group of people to be his protector as he was going through to the other world and just having to do this thing he doesn't want to do. And come to find out, that was also basically happening with me in real life during the process of writing this book. Only I didn't know that until it was all said and done.
So who were these 4 people? Like, who were the 4 people that were with your character?
Yes, there were 4 people. They were his guardians. They were servicemen of these rulers of the region that he's from in this other world. And they're just 4 men named Damien, Gregory, Hugo, and Amati. And they're all skilled at what they do. They're fighters.
Okay.
And I was very attached to them writing them. They felt very real to me. They felt very near and dear. Like, I genuinely felt like they were real people. And one day when I was sitting outside, I'd pretty much finished the book. It was said and done. I was just sitting outside and I was just having my time with God one day, and I felt like God was just like, well, I guess I was expressing some feelings of how stressed I was, or pretty much just how stressed I was. And he was like, well, he basically brought me back to like those characters, just putting them in my head. And he's like, well, who do you think they are? He's like, where do you think the idea for them came from? And I was like, basically, well, what do you mean? And I saw it just out of nowhere. It was, there were 4 men. There was one like sitting on the yard, and one like standing in the corner, like on the grass, and one like so close to me, right beside me. And then there was another one off to the side. And God was like, these are your protectors.
Wow.
This is like who has been with you,
Amazing.
Through your journey of writing this book. And, so I guess there was just that confirmation of like, they are real.
Yes.
In their own way. And, this, when I felt like I was alone and like nobody understood what I was going through writing this book, it's like they knew.
Yes.
And they were there, and they were protecting me the whole time.
I love it.
How beautiful is that? That's so amazing. It's very touching. He tells us in his word that he will give his angels charge over us, that they'll look out for us and they'll protect us, and that they'll even lift us up, that we will not, stump our foot against a stone. And so we do have angels that are guarding us and that are looking out for us. And you had even mentioned that earlier, that even as they were in their colors and in the clothing that they wore in the book, they were, when you saw them in your yard.
Yeah, there's it's weird. I have one character, he wears this bright yellow jacket. That's just his color. Well, I mean, the angel that I assumed was his duplicate, he was wearing bright yellow robes, and there was another one wearing dark green. Well, one of my characters tends to wear a lot of green, and then another one who was wearing red. One of my characters always wears red, and so it's just, he even has a red rope entwined in his hair at all times.
Wow.
And so it's just little things like that I saw those colors and attached to these angels in real life. So it was
Amazing.
It was incredible. It was the most amazing thing I've seen. I was like, God is awesome.
He is awesome. So, River, share with me, when did you realize it was a good time to be River Zedekiah?
When the book got published.
Yay!
That's amazing. Well, River, thank you so much for joining us. And we are so excited about her book again. It's the Chebet Trilogy. You can find it on Amazon.com. And you definitely want to read this book. It's going to encourage you and inspire you and even give you ideas and understanding into why life has been the way it has been for you. There's something that you can definitely relate to. So thank you again for joining us. And River, how about at the count of 3? Let's tell them it's a good time to be you, okay? 1, 2, 3. It's a good time to be you. To connect with or find out more about River Zedekiah, just go to www.riverzedekiah.com. And remember, it's a good time to be you.